All right, all right. Good night, good night, good night, good night. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Fatherhood Think Tank. Another 60 to 90 minutes of fatherhood conversation for fathers, by fathers, about fathers' situations and father issues. Again, I want to welcome people back. If you haven't done so thus far, like, share, subscribe, join us, share us, let people know about this intellectual conversation by fathers that's going to go on here tonight. I definitely want to. I see my fathers who are faithful, faithful crew guys who never miss a beat. First thing I want to do tonight is I want to send a congratulations and a hooray to Brother Tenney's son for his nominations. I know that when we talk about our conversation tonight, the talk that we have with our children, you obviously had a lot of talks with them to get them ready to be such a great actor and put himself in position for some nominations for some awards. And I know you're proud about that, my brother. I'm proud of myself. It's always great to know. You one thing you always do. You always know somebody who knows somebody who's doing something great. So it's great to know you and know him firsthand because of that. And he's not and he's doing great work out there. So again, I'll let you speak about that. Anyway, let's get to the nice topic. Before we do so, I just want to first and foremost acknowledge our sponsor. Starting with our sponsor tonight, JAG Attorney at Law. It's Miami-Dade, Broward County, West Palm Beach. Whatever you do, work it with your all, your heart, as it works for the Lord. That's a nice scripture that attorney at law. But if you kind of get in touch with him, he obviously going to be doing all he can to help you with your case. JAG Attorney at Law. So Johnny A. Gaspar, you can hit him at j.gaspar@jag1law.com. Phone number 305-827-8087. And you can definitely get him at his website. www.jag1law.com. That's our man Johnny A. Gaspar. Hopefully we'll see him tonight. Maybe busy working on your case or someone cases like your case right now. So it will make sure we keep that heavy in our mind. We definitely want to, as much as possible, as I work diligently for our partnerships and through Omega Psi Phi's fatherhood and mentoring program initiative, I definitely, without a doubt, want to acknowledge our partnerships with those organizations. Our first and main and been our sponsor for. I think they've been a sponsor since the beginning. That's Zeta Chi chapter of Omega Psi Phi in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. The Fort Lauderdale Bros, they have been one of our major partners in the Fatherhood Initiative in the South Florida area. So definitely want to give them their shout out. We also want to, look at our other partners. Now we be working on partners and having partners all over. There's another partnership that we have is with another chapter of Omega Psi Phi. This is the Zeta Xi new chapter of Omega Psi Phi in Lagos, Nigeria. Again, another partner of our fatherhood initiative with Fatherhood Mentoring Program through their fraternity and supporting us because we work with fathers and do support with fathers. And so we want to say goodnight to those brothers and their fathers who are watching, who may be watching. And we know it might be different because sometimes they might be watching this in the middle of the night if they are in Nigeria. But sometimes that's what sometimes we need to get that knowledge as we can. And then we want to move to our last sponsor, our partnership with the Omega Lambda chapter of Omega Psi Phi here in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. To find a partnership that we have in the city of Philadelphia. So as you can see, we have partnerships. It can that lends us to letting our voice and our word get out to multiple cities and also in a whole nother country. So we have that working for us, and we just want to send a shout out to those partners before we get into our conversation for tonight. So with that being said, let's get in. Let's go ahead and move into that conversation. That conversation for tonight is the talk that Black fathers need to have with their children. Black fathers need to have a talk with their children. I remember we had this topic probably about 4 or 3 years ago. It was a while ago, but obviously, as we see, the cycle continues to come back around, and I know that there's been a lot of communication and a lot of events where the question of where the father and what the father has communicated to the child to their children in reference to different kind of talk, because I think there's multiple different kind of talks we can kind of look at today. We look at who you hang out with, how you hang out, and what you're doing when you're hanging out. You can have a conversation about, hey, knowing your rights, knowing what to do to keep your dignity and your rights intact, not to have to, little yourself because someone might be presenting something to you that they're not right with. But it also to know when the limits is the limits, because you can't win a fight in the street as a young person, dealing with adults who may have authority or who may feel their authority is being threatened, and what can happen. So, with that being said, let me go ahead and get my fathers on here on the line. Let them introduce themselves, and so we can get into this conversation for the night.
I'll go ahead and get us started. My name is Ed Tenney. I am a father to three grown adults, and I have a grandbaby son who is 6 months old now, and two grandbaby girls over there on the West Coast. So it's a pleasure to be here and looking forward to hearing the wisdom exposited by you gentlemen tonight.
Well, I before you go off, I just want to say this again. I feel like one day we're gonna be on here and gonna say, yeah, my granddaughters are graduating high school. That's how. Listen, at this point, this how things seem to be flying every time I turn around. I'm like, what? Where did time go? But again, blessings to your grandchildren, brother.
Amen. Thank you.
Hey, good evening, gentlemen. My name is Lionel Lightborn. I'm a father to a tribe of 7 young adults, three young women, 4 young men, a granddaughter who will be attending high school this year, and and a grandson who should be starting school himself, pre-K or something this year as well. So it's just a pleasure to always be here. I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Good evening. My name is Leonard Ross. I'm a father of three, two girls, one man in the middle. Actually, that man in the middle will be starting high school this year. It's always a pleasure sitting in, listening, and gaining new insight from you gentlemen. Thank y'all.
Welcome, Leonard. Good to hear from you, brother. We got our homeboy back, not working in the evening. He get to come on.
How y'all doing, man? Tay Will Burton, uh, a father of three, two boys, one girl. Hey, I ain't that old yet. Well, I ain't gonna say old. I ain't that age yet. My kids ain't in high school. They still, yeah, they still elementary school. They ain't even in the third grade yet. Hey, well, congrats, y'all, though, for real, man.
And I see that we got brother Marcus. He probably at work, but he's on probably listening. I just want to say congratulations to him too. I know that he just moved into his new spiritual world. Just went through one of his ceremonies, so I want to definitely congratulate him on that and welcome. And I know he's probably in the background working because he's getting awards for being a good worker. So I see awards getting for being a good worker. So I know that he probably at his job working hard, but just listening in. So I want to just give him a shout out because he can't introduce himself. So gentlemen, listen, we're here to kind of talk about that topic, the talk that Black fathers need to have with their children. and not so exclusively. Sometimes we have this talk that need to have with their sons, but the way society is going today, just have with your children in general about what they should or should not do in different situations. Now, I'm going to not, monolithic monologize the idea of what the talk is. I'm going to let you guys start off with the talk that you may have had with your own child about whatever it could be that be be that talk, and what was your reasoning for that talk that you had with your children.
Well, as a, oh, you want to go ahead? Go ahead, Jake. That
No,
was
I,
you.
Oh,
I was
yeah,
gonna.
I was
That was
saying
me.
y'all,
All
but
right,
I'll go. Um,
go ahead.
I have a rather unique topic I have to have with my kids. Cause my kids go to private school, so the reason why I say it's rather unique for those of y'all in Miami, my kids go to Ransom. So a lot of the time they're in classes with elitists, and they're the minority sometimes in the entire school.
Mm,
So most classes they attend, they're the only person of color in that classroom. So the topic I have to have with them is to still be proud of where you came from and who you are. Um, it's a unique conversation, I think, because a lot of the times I have to battle that because, especially with my youngest, who's new to the private school, my oldest not so much, but with her, it seems like there's a pressure to fit in, and she feels like it's a letdown if she doesn't fit in, and I got to keep reminding her, you know, hey, it's okay to be where you from. It's okay to be who you are. You didn't get into this school because of money, but you got into this school because you had exceptional test scores. And on top of that, you're an exceptional athlete. So I have to tell her that because I don't want my kids to mess around and be whitewashed trying to fit in with the white folks and the elitists.
mm.
Um, so any thoughts or feedbacks y'all have on that? But I think that's a conversation that I have to have with them. Um, the other conversation I often have with my kids revolves around slavery as well. And I try to tell them don't let the stigma of slavery hold you back. Yes, we know that you come from a generation of slaves. Yes, we know that that's rooted in our history. But I also know kings and queens are rooted in our history. So don't let that be the trauma that holds you back so you can keep striving for your dreams and not closing the doors on you that wouldn't have been closed if you didn't close them yourselves.
Mm.
So, so them the kind of conversations I have with my kids. You know, I always teach them to, be despite of, not because of, meaning you achieved your goals despite what you went through, instead of saying I couldn't do it because this is what I went through, you know. So that's that's my little piece about that conversation.
I say I love that because I think so often that many people will not use our skill or resilience as a strength piece. Listen, the reality is you all you have to do is show evidence because if they can't do it, we wouldn't be here to be able to. If they can't do it, you can show them clearly, and we got to be careful because they're trying to get rid of those kind of historical things in the country at some point. But show them that hey, listen, we have many people in our culture, in our race, in our ethnicity, that have done what they needed to do despite of what may have been done to them. Because I think the big part of it is remembering it's not you, is what's been done to you. And I think that's where and then you're there. Man, I pray over your kids every day, brother, because I know they're getting they they getting the idea of some people will say, oh, that's great. They're getting to go to the prominent school, they're getting the right education, this and that, but there's a lot of stuff that's coming with that same thing that they are getting in some of that education. And if you're not, I agree. If you're not being able to give them that conversation to support them and remind them who they are and don't get caught up in being somebody else's token, you can be the intelligent, smartest black kid, black person. Because I see this is where I like to change that narrative. The smartest black person in the school who just happens to be black. Yeah. Because a lot of times they'll even equate that, oh well, it happens because you're black. You got that people felt some way. No, I'm smart. I come from a smart stock of people, and if I'm not that smart, I work really hard. So I definitely dig that conversation that you're having with your parent. I mean your students, your kids.
I guess I'll go. Oh gosh. The first conversation. Well, I had two, but the first ones I had with my son and with my kids is one. They getting old. I think I don't think they 7, 6, and 4. But the first conversation I had with them recently was I apologize to them for having them grow up in a broken home because I ain't with none of their mamas, and I don't plan on being with none of their mamas. But that's like the kind of like the first thing like I really like talk to them about, and I always told them, you know what I'm saying, like daddy gonna always be here, no matter what. You know, y'all can always depend, y'all can always call on daddy, and like the whole nine that I had definitely with my son, since my son be with me most of the time. Like I definitely like had that conversation with him, but I just want to get my kids to like know, like, even though my other two, I'm not there, every day, what I'm saying? Like I'm always like a phone call away, what I'm saying? I always told them like they always got a house at daddy house, so I always let them know like when you say you going home, you know what I'm saying? That's daddy house too. That's just not y'all, that's y'all mom house. So that's the conversation I had with them two, which is like, I apologize to them for having them grew up in a broken home at the moment. You know what I'm saying? But the second one is it's crazy you brought the private school situation because I said I never send my kids to private school because of like literally that reason right there. As y'all know before, I'm very 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 pro black, but the girl I'm dating now, she actually has her own private school, right? And that's one thing that she do is that and my girl is black, of course, no question. And one thing that she does is she wants to have like an outlet for she wants to have an outlet for black kids, you know what I'm saying? Because Caucasian kids have so many different outlets. For example, for like the private school that he's talking about. So it's like they have so many different outlets and so many different places to like go. So one thing she's doing is that she has her own school, her own private school where black kids can come, and it's very very hands on. Like my son was going to he was going to like I don't know if y'all know what Nova is, the school. It's like they got like a whole elementary, middle, and high school and things like that. And it was he needed like one-on-one help. Like my son, like he needed like one-on-one help, and he couldn't get it out there at all whatsoever. So I just been having him go to like my girl summer camp, which is basically her school, and like she has that private school like has helped him like tremendously. You know what I'm saying? Like tremendously. So just like that's like just the conversations I'm just trying to have with like all my kids, even really honestly, like I know it's fatherhood, but even my nephews and my nieces, because I ain't gonna say like they don't have consistent fathers. You know what I'm saying? So I even talk with them. I have three nephews and one niece. You know what I'm saying? So like even with them, like so I have a conversations with them. I go over. I just took my oldest nephew fishing, had to taught him how to fish. I always have conversations with them anytime that I get a chance to get them. You know what I'm saying? So that's like I said, that's a conversation I have with all of them. Just like let them understand, like who they are. It doesn't matter, the mistakes that me and y'all mom have made. When I say mom, talking to my niece and nephews, I don't try to talk. I don't talk bad at all in front of my kids about their moms. But I talk to my niece and nephews, my sister. I say, no matter what y'all hear or no matter what me and y'all mom have done, we're literally every day we're trying to make the best for y'all. You know what I'm saying? Like always. So like I said, that's just what I had the conversation I have with them. You know. That's it.
And you're right. These are the, as I said, that as we're going around, we're kind of looking at the conversations, not one particular kind of conversation, but the different conversations that our fathers, as fathers, we are having with our kids. That talk that we are having with our children. That could be uh, multitudes of topics, not just general what we see in the headlines, but also some of the things we've heard already this evening. I think, and it depends on what age our kids and what's important for them. Where they go educationally, what their lifestyle should be, how they should see themselves in the self respect and self esteem, and because imagine being at the smartest school, being at the top school, but feeling like so low about yourself because you don't feel like you're not like everybody else. Now it's funny because what I see sometimes is people who don't feel like they're like everybody else is happy because that means I'm better than everybody else. And a lot of times we don't get that same boost to feel like we different and we better. We feel like we different and it sometimes have a negative connotation. Good night, Johnny. Welcome. Look like you having some. No, we're not hearing you, my brother. All right, he gonna go out and come back in.
Well, I was gonna say Johnny could do like he'll be make one hell of a sign language coach because I kind of understood his sign language. But I think it was a very interesting concept that you're talking about. And I think because from the last time we had this conversation to this time we had this conversation, I think I've matured in this conversation to understand that I think the best advice you can give any child, I don't care what color they are, what circumstances they're from, socioeconomic status they're from, is to always raise them to treat others. You understand? To treat others like they would want to be treated. I think sometimes, not sometimes, I would say all the time, sometimes the best advice for a father is the advice from the father you can give your children. I don't think the information that we give to our children, regardless of the circumstances, should be inferior. And I think sometimes within our culture, we're victimized by inferior information. And the reason I say that is because what you just spoke about earlier, Ron, which is just a conditioning, it's a concern, but it's also a conditioning. The reason we having this topic is because it's both a concern, but also a condition. We tend to have more narratives, right, and information for the things that's against us than we do for the things that's for us, right? And so I think most of the time our narrative is more plays better defense than it does offense, and because of that, it actually it causes us social and economically. And so we have to be careful on how, because even God said, I haven't given you the spirit of fear. But at the same time, for the sake of concern, we use concern to promote glorified fear or to even glorify fear, right, within our children. And so when you put them in a situation like where Leonard's children is in, then you got to understand if he's going to say, oh, well, you're different, as opposed to saying you ain't no less than you ain't no less than anybody, but you ain't no better than nobody either. You understand? Then you can put them on an even playing field where they can, guess what, grow back to yourself. Somebody say in spite of or despite of the circumstances. And so I think a lot of time we have to be very just the way we disseminate information to our children. Because I'm going to be honest with you, a lot of time we let the injustice make us unjust in the way we disseminate information to our children and the way their outlook is on society. And so I think even with this young man, Nolan, I think there's something, we speak so much in the negative. I don't think we accurately represent who he was as a human being. Because we victimize him so much because of the circumstances, we miss all the victories he was as a human being. And that's another conversation that I'm going to expound on as we talk more about this situation. I'm going to leave it right there. Yeah, you might want to take up sign language, Johnny. We still can't hear you.
Well, that's what we heard a few minutes ago. Oh, that wasn't him. That was Leonard.
Okay,
Yeah.
now. Can y'all hear me now?
Yeah, we hear you now.
Okay.
Oh, it's coming in delayed.
It's sounding delayed?
But go ahead.
Man, I don't know.
Speak.
We can hear you. Go ahead. Now you're back on mute.
That sounds like damn.
It was.
We can hear you now.
You can hear me now. Okay, good. I don't know what's going on. Never busy today. But just want to introduce myself, Johnny Gaspard. I'd reached out to Rod about this topic because, of course, the Nolan thing, obviously, y'all have discussed that. And I wanted to ask Lightborn, because I love his take just now. When Black parents have historically had to tell our children, we can't be just as good as them, we got to be better. Would you say that conversation was from a negative perspective as well, based upon your explanation just now?
I think the information is inferior, and whether it can be as noble as it can be. You can say the wrong things with right motives,
Gotcha.
right? And because of that, put it like this. Let's go factual on this, because I got to go ahead and prove this, right? If that was true, right, then to a certain extent, DEI would be irrelevant.
Let's say it again.
DEI would almost be irrelevant, right?
Okay.
Because,
I got you.
Right. You understand where I'm going with this, right?
Yeah.
DEI would be, because what we're saying is the whole purpose and the premise of DEI is because people think that, number one, we're not just as good. Number two, most of our successes and achievement came by way of charity and handout. And we know that it's not true at all. But at the same time, on the other side of our mouth, we're saying, and this is the problem. Okay, this is where the DEI for me come in at. Because sometimes we legitimize DEI with what you just said, Johnny. You got to work twice as hard to get the same result.
Gotcha.
Okay, that makes sense. And so a lot of people understand, on one side of your mouth, you're saying we're pro-DEI, but the other side of your mouth, you're saying anti-DEI. And so I'm like, listen, what you just said is that we expected, or a condition, or our narrative says we have to work twice as hard to get the same result, or basically saying I have to work as hard to get the same pay. You understand?
So in essence, what you're saying, that implies that we're not as good as we think we are. We're not good enough.
Correct.
But see, that is a psychological trauma, right? That we face as a people. And that's where it becomes a major problem, because if that was to be true, we believe it mostly.
Correct.
But the people who even say this would know it not be true, because it proves how the country got developed, because we worked that hard. So if you are the people working hard, why would you have to now work twice as hard than the people who wasn't working at all?
Well, I think it's a statement that's been, it's like a narrative of people saying we understand that we got to do harder, we got to push harder, go further, because if we did the same thing that they did, I think that's the point that we're trying to make. That if we work the same level as that person next to us that's of a non-melanated complexion, we wouldn't get to where the same level they did. And I think that's really what we're trying to say when we talk about that we have to work twice as hard. I think that's what we're saying, like, well, but I get your point that in even saying that, despite that intention, we are saying that we're not, it could come off as if you're saying you're not good as them. Is that,
but Johnny, the problem with that is that it is a false negative. This is not a true reality. The only reason it makes it true is because of discrimination and oppression. Because you're telling me that I work twice as hard as you and I'm still not good as you.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying to you, Ron. I think the statement that when parents make that or try to inform their children or have that talk with their children about if you're in a work environment and son, daughter, just understand that oftentimes because of how the history of this country is, you won't have to go above and beyond to potentially get the same opportunity they have doors open for you that they wouldn't even have to work that hard to get. So that's what I'm talking about in reference to that conversation around. Not that you're not as good, but because of the country that we live in and the history of this country, how sometimes that's the behavior that's required for us to get the doors open for us and to accomplish the things that we want to accomplish.
But is that now becoming a mousetrap, for us? Because you have did all. I mean, I think we continue to sell that, and then you still go right up and do the same thing, and you work hard, and you're still not getting what's equal to you because it's not about how hard you work, right? It's about the inequality that exists. So you listen. I'm gonna take a page from out of Lionel's book. If when we look at athletes, we clearly do not see women running 100 meters versus the men. Those two races are separate.
Correct.
Separate for a reason, right? But if a woman did work all the way up to be able to race at the level of the men, right? Yeah. And won the race, she still would not get, be like, okay, great, but you're still not going to get the same accreditation.
Yeah, I got you.
As the men that did. So it's this idea that we kind of put our children are sometimes put into that play. It starts with we putting ourselves into it, and then we're passing it down to our children because we want them to be and have a certain way. So that's a really good point there.
Yeah, well, that's one talk I wanted to bring up. The other talk that I know that I'm sure you guys have discussed it already is obviously our encounter with law enforcement, and I know Lightboy kind of addressed that in the injustice, unjustice thing that he was throwing out there. But that's a conversation that we often have to have with our children. And as a person who's involved with the justice system, I see a lot of times that many of our kids come in there, one, because maybe they didn't have anybody to have that conversation with them on how to interact with police, how to do these things. That we are, historically both men of Omega, myself as an attorney, as a Black male in this community, I oftentimes do seminars with judges on how to interact with police officers. How should your behavior be when you enter into the courtroom? Because you would be surprised how many of us walk in there because we don't know any better. That's the phrase I'm going to use. And we put ourselves behind the 8 ball before we even open our mouth with the court. I literally had a guy walk into the courthouse with a T-shirt that said "F the police" in a criminal case. He is a defendant. I think he wore that shirt. Oh, possibly, Ron. There's a strong possibility.
He knew what he knew. And that's a part of the rebellion. That there are people who are saying they gonna screw me anyway, so I might as well go in there and screw it.
And screw myself. Listen, that I've seen them come in with the bonnet and the furry slippers and the pajamas, and I'm sitting there trying to figure out to myself, do you realize a judge literally had to tell somebody, go home, change your clothes, and come back tomorrow dressed appropriately. The guy with the F the police shirt, the judge told him the same thing. because I don't want to have you sitting here because that could be a contempt. I could find you in contempt for the shirt you have on. So go home, come back tomorrow. I'll see you there. Have a great day. And he was mad because he felt like the judge wasted his time. And the judge said, well, I could not waste your time and have you sit in the box. Which one you want? And at that point, he's like, I'll see you tomorrow, Yada.
But let me ask you, Johnny, let me ask you a question.
No, hold on, Ron.
Let me welcome
Go ahead.
my man, Marion, here. And
good evening, brothers. How y'all doing, man? Coming live from Philadelphia.
All right, Brother Wilson. Good to see you.
Good seeing y'all.
Good evening.
All right, go ahead, John.
Lightborn, you were going to say?
No, because I think what happened is, and we do this a lot, I think it comes a lot with classism. I would say racism. I'm like, no, that's classism. And the reason I say it's classism, because listen, judge or whoever, nothing, right? You don't get to erode.
Is he on mute or is it just me?
It's you.
No, it's probably just you. Y'all can hear me?
It's you. We can hear him, Mary.
Okay. Oh, I think, hey, Marlon, if you're on your cell phone, that's going to be the problem because it buffers slower on the cell phones. And that's actually the platform. That don't have nothing to do with your cell phone. Okay, but what I was saying is,
go ahead, Lightborn. Go ahead.
I can hear y'all. I just can't hear him.
okay. Yeah, so the standard is always the standard, no matter what the expression. Those people that come into the courtroom they're still protected by the freedom of expression, and it's their constitutional right. I think a lot of times,
well, no, go
ahead. And Johnny, you can attest to this. A lot of times those rights are violated because for us to be a multicultural society, right, a multi-historical society, most of the time, only because of the pedigree and the class of the people that come into the courtroom, the courts are very loose with violating their freedom of expression. Whereas opposed to somebody with a very expensive lawyer, who in some cases don't even have to show up. Talking about not showing up a certain particular way. You got some guys who got the money, don't have to show up at all. You understand? And still get the level of respect of somebody who did show up in the way you didn't or approve of them showing up. And so I think a lot of times there's injustices that we tolerate and not hold those people who's supposed to uphold justice to the standard of justice that actually ought to be distributed in those courtrooms. And sometimes I believe, not even sometimes, I think most times, most court, what we call them, they give you guys, everybody have this blanket name when it comes to serving justice. But the people who's supposed to be upholding the justice, it's a lot of times and I believe a lot of times they take liberties, right? They take liberties because they can. They'll take the liberties with poor people they would never take with rich people. And that's classic. And I'm gonna tell you something. Most of the time, you think racism is bad in the courtrooms. The only thing worse than racism in courtroom is classism. And the most people who get so you can see, I've seen just white people or poor white people get just treated just as bad as regular black people, only because of that class issue. So I think we don't hold up the standard of justice and simple ethics when it comes to just treating people humane. And because of that, we'll laugh at him. We'll say, "Oh, what you call him was notorious for doing it. I love him, but I thought it was very disrespectful to just be calling people crackheads and then everybody have a laugh." And then I love Judge Mathis, but I'm like, Judge Mathis, I'm like, but you won't function in any other capacity like that. You got your own. Go ahead.
I'm disagreeing with you, Lightborn. I definitely think it's a classism issue because if I walk in there with a client, I'm going to have them prepared properly. They're going to be dressed appropriately because I've already informed them the expectations of the court. You got me? Where someone who's coming in with a PD, They may not have even spoken to the public defender. They have not, outside of basic, hey, this is my name, call me when you can, and they show up with no guidance. So they walk in there looking a hot mess, and they in turn get the, as you just eloquently shared, the disrespect from the court because of their, I guess, lack of resources is what, or their class in reference to what is a resource situation. Because again, if someone walks in there with an attorney who is paid, as they say, versus a non-paid attorney, there are oftentimes two different mindset of the individual walking in the door, and the outcome also plays a major role as well. So I definitely agree with you, but I still think that's a conversation that we as fathers still have with our children, because unfortunately, despite the system being what it is like if you ever have to go through that position, this is how you present yourself. And at the end of the day, as I often tell my kids, you are a reflection of me. So when you walk out the door, regardless whether it be the courthouse or the hospital, make sure you have on, proper underwear. Because if you get in an accident and you got holes in your drawers, I don't need them people talking about, well, who is daddy? Who is mama? You know what I'm saying? Why he look like this? So again, those are all conversations that as fathers, we should be having with our children, talks that we should be having that I throw out there. But I just wanted to come back to that part about the court situation, that I do agree with you. It's a class situation, which is obviously mandated by resources that plays a role in.
But it's also one that's mandated by the construction of public opinion, right, and public decorum.
True.
For example,
there you go. Good point,
looking at the Carmelo Anthony's case, how people were so concerned about what haircut he had to go to trial. They wasn't concerned with the suit he had, because they knew he was going to have a suit, because he had a suit on all the time. But it was like, would he have that same like afro type hair, or would he have a short haircut? And I thought to myself, why was this even important? Why would that be an important thing? But it goes into this idea of, what the court can use to bias what a prosecutor can use to bias a jury with.
100%.
And so I did think about this is also how savvy lawyers, maybe like yourself, Johnny, do those things to do what Lightborn was talking about. To maybe get a.
I would have had Carmelo cut his hair.
I'm not talking about cutting his hair. I'm saying showing up in there with the crazy clothes and then use that. I've seen many court cases where the people use the bias of the court based on how the person came. Person came, they had a shirt, and they had a shirt and tie. They took the white guy. I remember he took the shirt and tie and they had a shirt on saying "killer" on it, and he wore that the whole time. He smiled and then it biased the court because the court didn't like him, and then he could say, "Oh, I didn't get a fair trial because the court was biased against me."
I got
you. Even some of them cases where people do the most ridiculous, craziest, like the guy who jumped up across the bench onto the judge. At that point, the judge may have to accuse himself from this case, because the judge feel like, hey, this guy, I'm threatened at this, because if I prosecute him, now is it that revenge or is it justice?
Gotcha.
Well, Ron, what you saying? And Ron, and I would tell, and I'm gonna have to challenge Johnny on this because he's my brother. But I will challenge you on this, Johnny, because you are in the system and you are part of the system. The one thing about it, you challenge them and you challenge that system to either abide by the books and not the looks. And that is it. The law is literally strictly abide by the books and not the looks. And you tell them that came from your brother Lionel Lightborn. And that's that. And remember I told you, I came to jury. I came to first. And so it's always personal for me, because I was not gonna show up in no tie, because I'd be damned if I'm gonna tie my own noose around my neck. It ain't happening. I did not want that to happen. I have a bias.
I think Lightborn got a good point there. Lightborn really got a good point, because what if our juries and our judges was different? They only heard the case. They didn't see the case. Like the picture of justice She's blindfolded. So why don't we ever have any cases where everybody blindfolded? We assume that they're blindfolded, but they're not, because they can look right at you. Imagine having a case where you are blind during the case. You can only listen to the evidence. You can't see any evidence.
Well, then you wouldn't have any eyewitness testimony. Get it? You'll only have ear witness testimony or touch. There would be no eyewitness because I can't see. I can't.
No, I'm not talking about the eyewitness. Eyewitnesses seeing what they seen, but you would hear what they seen, because the eyewitness not a part of the justice. They are part of either the prosecution or the defense.
Well, that's part of the justice system because oftentimes the question is asked, did you see the person who did the particular crime? Yes. Could you point them out with an article of clothing that they're wearing? Yes. The gentleman there with the hat, the purple and gold hat with the jewelry on his arms, and now the witness has pointed out you as the person who did the crime. So now the jury now is saying, okay, the witness, now it's about whether or not that witness is credible as to who they saw. No longer, because they've ultimately said they saw you, they've pointed out you, and the jury's gotten a chance. If they were blindfolded, then the jury still wouldn't be able to accurately, or it is possible, now that I think about it, a jury could say if they were blindfolded, they will hear the prosecution and the judge confirm, okay, yes, that's Mr. Smith or Osborne Williams sitting over there. That is definitely him, Your Honor, blah, blah, blah. And we can move on from there. But I just think that overall, these are conversations that we as fathers, Black fathers, have to be having with our children. And a lot of times, and I get when you're hearing what you said, Lightborn, in the beginning, that oftentimes it's from a negative perspective. How do we then not... do we ignore those conversations? Do we not have those conversations? What do we do when we're saying to our Black boys and girls, hey, there's a likelihood because of the world that we live in that you're going to encounter law enforcement at some point, whether it's a traffic stop because you didn't put your blinker on or something of that nature. How do we address that it doesn't come from a negative or inferior perspective as you shared?
Johnny, I'm gonna give you a what they call it, a news flash, hot off the presses, right? They kept this one low key, but God just brought it past me today, and I'm gonna share it with y'all right now.
Go ahead.
So now, it's actually factual. This is going on as we speak. So Sonny Houston from The View, right? Right? Listen to this.
Yeah.
Sonny Houston from The View, who have a son who graduated from Harvard.
Yes.
This is getting juicy about him. Okay, so Sonny Houston from The View, Black attorney who's on The View, has a son who graduated from Harvard, who went jogging, right? And it was he went jogging up a pathway on a piece of property that said "Don't trespass." The gate was open, and the sign may have been askew. I might say I don't know if he could have seen it or not because I didn't see the sign. But they say the sign was visible. The police stopped him and was getting ready, not getting ready, actually pursued a what they call it, like an arrest, like a promise to appear or something like that. For the put an arrest on his record. Remember what I said? He graduated Howard, not Howard, no, Harvard. Not Howard, Harvard.
Harvard, got it.
So here it is. So now, right now, check this out. Now, with me and you, if my son was guilty of something, I'm like, okay, I'm going to make him own up to the responsibility of what he's guilty of. And then guess what? We'll negotiate at the mercies of the court. Would you say that's fair?
That's fair.
Okay. That's not what's going on with her. What she's doing now is she's trying to literally make them drop the charges. I'm like, but he did trespass on the property. And so what she's literally trying to do, and this is where the classism really come in at. This is a Black lady. But because of her status and socioeconomic, you understand,
yes, resources. Correct.
Right, there you go. And I'm saying to myself, no, because here's the real black conversation. We don't raise our children like that. We raise our children to own up to whatever they did, take responsibility out, you know what I'm saying, and move on. But we never, one thing about black people in our culture, we've never benefited from any privilege. None of it. You understand? And that's the problem I have. I'm like, hold on, no. I said, because that wasn't going to happen for my child. And so the fact that you can use your privilege and your position and stuff like that, and the only way you can justify it is saying white people do it, rich people do it. You understand? And my children don't get the opportunity to function within that privilege. I have a problem with that. And so I'm not saying, I think it's unfortunate. I think the police might have been overzealous of trying to put an arrest charge on somebody that for a guy, and particularly a black kid or a black young man that achieved so much. You understand? Just to show him that he ain't much at all. So I do understand the dynamics. I'm not gonna say I don't, but I also gotta acknowledge the other side, of which what I talked about earlier. Oh, that doesn't happen, and I'm not gonna say that doesn't happen to black people. And so right now, what she's doing is she's asking for white privilege.
No,
right now,
no.
Here's a black woman literally expecting the benefit and asking for white privilege, and she's working that angle. Now, I'm like, just do whatever you have to do to save your child. You understand? But as the everyday black layman person, you understand? I can't respect that. I'm sorry, because that is not.
But that's the same thing everybody would say about OJ and what happened with his case many, many moons ago. OJ had 18 lawyers. So you ain't gonna respect his position because he has the money to fight it. He has the position to fight it. That's my thing.
No, I don't remember. We never had a problem with the position. We don't, but as black people, we didn't respect the privilege. It's a difference. And so when black people, right? So when black people, so I'm like, listen, if the privilege was wrong for white people, it's still wrong when black people use it as white people.
I think what Lightborn is saying is that, and I as I listen to it, if you go into a place that says no trespassing, you go into it, right?
Yes.
And then when you go in there, the police come and they arrest you. You can't say, well, you can't arrest me and you're only doing this because I'm black. Now, because the problem is that the likelihood they are doing it because you're black is also the stance that you step on when you interact with them and how you end up interact. Because remember that police are in control of situations. So I've been in many of them where my tone, my attitude, and my approach to the situation always lended me to get back in my car or keep walking on my way.
Gotcha.
And no bracelets on my hand.
Gotcha.
Even when there was incidents of there was wrong being done, because I use my intelligence to say, hey, you know, I guess I am wrong. I didn't, and I can always use the ignorance of I didn't know that and I didn't see it, but I can't do that and be defensive and say you're doing this because I'm black. Because they might not be doing it because another issue is that I sometimes didn't have that liberty because the officers usually were black.
Okay.
Either we're in a place where you got black officers, you can't use a race thing with a black officer a lot of times when it's, the black officers come and see you and say, hey, what you doing over here? Oh, what you doing? You trying to get, no, hey man, I was just walking, running through here. Come over here. Let me get your ID. Yeah, here go my ID. I was just walking through. I didn't know I couldn't come through here. Okay, man, get up out of here. Look out for the sign.
John, you said a quick run reach for that ID. I see Ron gonna be shot.
Listen, that's a thing I was thinking. That's the thing I was thinking. The way he got
Ron, you had to pull the ID a lot slower than you just did.
No. Because you don't. Because again, I'm telling you, these are black officers.
Gotcha.
So they want you to react fast, and because they know, in my interaction with, they know what they waiting for you, because you know why? Because the average person they come in contact with is hostile.
Got it.
So when they meet somebody unhostile, well, guess what happens? They rather deal with you and let you move on about your day, unless you're actually doing something that they got to call in or write in. They might be having a bad day.
One of the other talks that, and I don't know if y'all brought this up, that I wanted is the sex talk with our kids. What age are we looking at having that conversation with our kids now? Because I had mine with my daughter at 12 years old. And people were like, 12, why are you having that conversation with her that early? Because she came home and asked me about hunching. That these other kids in the school were talking about hunching, and she didn't know what that was about. So at that moment, I took it upon myself, instead of letting the blind lead the blind, let me educate her, talk to her about it, and have a very candid conversation, because my daughter was very emotionally and mature at the time. And I felt like she would understand it. And then later on, as she got older, now 15 years old, she's now a little bit more mature. She's been exposed. And we live in this climate today where our kids have more information than the last 2-3 generations ever had. They're exposed to so many things that a lot of times they don't feel like they got to ask you. They already know it because they've seen it on YouTube, they've seen it on Twitter, Snapchat, Twitch, Finsta, and in some cases, Pornhub, all the other things that they have been exposed to at that young age. So if we're not having that conversation with them at an early age, they're gonna be, by the time we get to them, they're already experimenting or trying something because their friend said. And I think it's just important that sex conversation for boys and girls are held at an earlier age because of what they're exposed to. And a lot of times, even when they don't have their own cell phone, they're still using their friend's phone, their friend's iPad, whatever it may be, to be exposed to this. And a lot of times, because their friends have freedom, their friends show them this information. Like, you don't know this, you don't know that. And like a lot of kids at that young age, they feel like they're left out. Why don't I know this? So if we don't have that conversation with them, I think we're doing them a disservice. So what are your thoughts on having that talk?
Let me put my sex.
Ron, don't jump in there yet with your expertise. You know you got a doctorate degree. Anyway, I'm gonna say it like this, and you're gonna love this. You're gonna love this, Johnny. You know what age you need to have that conversation about sex?
What?
Whatever age, they are more likely to be molested. And so if I ask you, what age do you think your child could be molested at? That's the age you should be start having that conversation about sex at.
Wow.
Simple enough. Because we using, see, when you're talking about, you got a proactive way you can do it, and you got a reactive way you can do it. And the proactive way is, I'm like, because we don't think about the predators. And so the predators start at all ages. And so anytime
they the roadblocks and all of that.
Exactly. So that anytime that child can get at the, way before social media, that child may just be exposed or preyed upon just on family members, neighbors, or whatever case may be, or trustworthy people. And so I think we have to have that conversation at the very point of comprehension of that child.
Well, is it that conversation at that time, or do we talk about the particular thing at that time? So, for example,
listen, Lightborn is 100% correct.
Ron, hold on.
Let me explain to you what the correction is, because he told me to sit back and.
Well, that's why I wanted to ask the question. I have a niece. She's 8 years old. She plays Roblox, right? So obviously we've been hearing all about the various predators that jump on Roblox and try to get our kids to do X, Y, and Z. Am I having the sex conversation with the 8-year-old or am I having a conversation about predators and adults who may want to tell you X, Y, and Z with the 8-year-old? That's what I'm asking.
You're having a
clarity.
conversation. You're having a conversation with children about their body and their body parts and what the purpose of them are. That's what you have from the time that they start even Listen, you understand that infant children at some point even masturbate themselves. And at that point, you should be, as a parent, paying attention to what that is, why that occurs, and explaining to them, I see you doing this, but if you're doing it, it's okay for you, but no one else should be doing it. So they begin to get that into their mind of what should be happening and who shouldn't be doing. I remember there was a time where I had not a concern, but I was working in that field, and I told my daughter, she was very young, and I told her about her body parts, because I was, at that time, this was a class that I was taking. So I came and told her about her body parts, about who should not be doing this, what her body parts are for, that her vagina is for her urination, and no one should be involved with it. And the only time she might be touching her, if she touches herself, even using tissue, her anus is when she defecates, and then she should be able to use tissue. But nobody should be doing those, touching her body part. She can touch them if she wants, but she should not be involved with people saying, "Hey, come and play this game." And again, she is not of a sexual mindset at all. Gotcha. These things are not going to be as sexual when I'm saying, but I'm telling her what she does know is that she use her vagina to pee. She use her anus to poo. Remember, her mouth is only for eating food, and drink. People should not be putting things into her mouth. All of these things, and it seems, oh boy, why would you even be telling the child these things? Because the predators have found multiple ways to convince your child to play games or utilize it to do the total opposite. So when you're thinking that you want to talk to your niece at 9 years old about something, she may have already been exposed, and now it's just continuing the business in a more advanced level, because she don't even at 9 years old, she don't know about pee, boo boo, mouth.
Gotcha.
Guess what? They may have already been groomed in some way. So
there's two different conversations. So there's what I'm hearing from you, Ron. The one is having them acknowledge, and much like Lightburn, having them know about their body parts, their private parts, not having somebody touch them, any of those conversations. So
and it don't have to be sexual. I think that's what parents get scared that, I'm going to start talking. No, you're talking about biology. That you are telling your kid about the biology of their body and what should be happening to their body and who it should be happening with. Now, the reason I know that, because the mom called me on the phone and was like, "Are you telling my daughter I'm going to give her a bath and she's telling me I can't touch her?" Because that's the stance that my daughter, I know she listened to me when I was explaining it and how I was explaining it to her. So in that case, her mom responded and was like, "What are you doing?" I said, because I have sit here and now listened to these cases where these kids did not even know, "Oh, come on, let's play the blow up game."
Gotcha.
You blow it, I blow you up, and then you blow me up. These kind of things.
Yeah.
And the kid don't know anything. They say, "I'm gonna play the blow up game."
No, I said I wanted to, and I'm glad you gave that distinction, Ron and Lionel, in reference to when a particular type of conversation should be had. So I'm definitely not disagreeing with what y'all are saying. Again, 100% agree that there should be a conversation about their body parts at a certain age, so that they understand if some person, whether it be a outside predator or inside predator, was to come at them, this is how they should react. But also for most of us, and it's sad, most parents don't even think about those particular things, because it's not something that they themselves were exposed to. So it's not something that comes to them, or they may not have Chester the molester, Uncle Chester, in their family. So they don't.
Auntie Bester. Auntie Bester. Don't just put on Uncle Chester, Auntie Bester.
You want Auntie Esther? Esther.
or Auntie Esther. They don't
Auntie
have
Esther,
Auntie
Uncle
Esther
Chester.
or
Yeah.
Uncle Chester in their family, so they don't know to have that conversation as well. But they do know about at some point having the sex conversation with them. And I think, and I 100% agree with y'all. I didn't have that conversation about not your body parts at a younger age because I never thought of those particular things because it wasn't something that was part of my upbringing or my exposure. So I definitely agree with where y'all are coming from. But I felt it necessary at the age when she came and asked about the hunching at that moment to have the conversation more so to one teach her. So like I said, the blind doesn't end up leading the blind because a lot of times we as parents are so reluctant to have these conversations with our kids that we end up letting other children or the internet teach them. And that's the worst type of teacher that you could possibly get. Because if me and you are the same age, how you could teach me something at that young age when you shouldn't, let me phrase that, you shouldn't know any better than I do. So I think that's the big thing for me is what the conversation is. And you gave a great clarity today on the distinction between the sex conversation and your body conversation and when that should be had.
Well, let me just add a little more caveat to that, so we can just talk about a few things that some more things that we don't think about that we don't do. Most of the time, young ladies have sex conversations way more than males have sex conversations.
Yes.
Because biologically, we recognize their puberty with their menstrual cycle. So
Correct.
when their menstrual cycle comes, we have to begin to explain. But we don't do the same thing with our young men.
You're
When
right.
they're having their ejaculations and night dreams,
Yeah.
we don't know it because they're hiding it from us. And we should know their biological time frame of these things going on because we'll know because they start smelling funny. We start seeing, just certain things start happening in their puberty that we should then at that point, if we haven't already talked about their biological body, this is the time that we should be talking. Because can you imagine what could happen to your child in a place, and not so much even with a predator, but where they are being exposed to all this sexual material that has no real good idea to them, and then puberty hits.
Oh, wow.
And so now they have all the things in their mind that they learn that you don't know nothing about. And
Correct.
then the actual body starts working
Gotcha.
for that to happen. And so then now you know, and if it's taboo to you, it's definitely going to be a secret.
Oh, yeah.
from you.
And I think
It's
that's
taboo.
this
It's a
conversation
secret.
here.
And I wanted that to go ahead, let Teeny get in there because I see your wheels turning.
No, I'm just sifting through all the knowledge. It's very enlightening. My kids they grew up before Roblox and they grew up before the ease of communications with the cell phones and stuff like that. It was great to be able to have, at least from the sex and biological conversations, to be in tandem with my wife when the kids were going through. So my daughter, who's the oldest, I yielded all of the biology talk and sex talk over to her because I just felt it would be more comfortable coming from another female who could directly relate from a biological perspective. When it came to my boys, though, I wasn't ready to have for them. We talked about the biology, we got that out years ago, but when the sex talk actually came, I personally wasn't ready. I'm like, I felt forced to be able to talk to them about the sex because I felt like it was too young. But the reality of it was, I think I had the sex talk with both the boys when my oldest son, was in 6th grade.
Gotcha.
Middle school at that time, was just way different from middle school and
When you grew
my
up.
time when I was growing up. So I just did not really expect to have that conversation with him so soon in 6th grade. I'm thinking, okay, maybe 8th grade, maybe 7th grade. But it was like I'm thinking around sixth grade. It could have been 5th. I just know that at the time I wasn't ready. So what I did was I, I found this actual book. It was a book. I can't remember if I got it from Barnes and Noble or one of the bookstores. It was actually a 3D pop-up book, and it was parent approved from me, because not only did it talk about the functionality of sex in general, just the mechanics, talked about the results, and I had a chance to talk about pregnancy, teen pregnancies, talking about rubbers, talking about premarital sex and all this other kind of stuff. But in my brain, I was fighting against it because of the conversations that these kids were having in 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. They're having these conversations about intercourse, and I'm like, I just wasn't ready. But I did it because I felt like I needed to be able to do it, to have them educated from a knowledge base and a moral base, actually. That these kids are just different. We're at a different level. This is kind of a sidebar. I would take my kids personally on the first day of school, just so I could walk them to school, get them familiar with the time and all that other kind of stuff. And I remember when my daughter went to 6th grade, I'm sitting on the bench, we're waiting on the bell to ring, and these kids were cussing like sailors around me, sitting right next to me, as if there was no adult at all.
In the
I
space.
remember back when I was in grammar school, we would cuss. We would cuss like sailors. But if an adult came around, it was, yes,
You
ma'am,
got
no, ma'am,
quiet.
all this
Yep.
other kind of stuff. And I was just so outdone at the freedom of speech that these kids had around me as an adult, just cussing, just no respect for my authority, just as an adult. And my daughter's sitting right there next to me. So I knew.
Did you say something? Did you
was
say
wrong.
something, Tinny?
I didn't say anything.
Man, whatever.
You would have said something.
Oh, hell yeah. I would be like, yeah, hey, check this. Don't have that conversation around me. Y'all take that somewhere else. That would have been me. Because again, it's essential, I think, oftentimes when those instances, and I apologize for cutting you off, Tinny, I just wanted to kind of interject. In those moments, you kind of still control the space as the adult. And a lot of those kids, unfortunately, come from foundations where there is no checking. There is no boundaries that's established with them. So you as an adult have to establish the boundaries. And if they react, as sometimes they do, as if they don't care what you have to say, you then have to remind them, well, I'm the adult, so I don't care how you feel, but you're going to take that conversation somewhere else. Otherwise, we're going to get in trouble, and I'm going to have to call your parents. And the sad part about it, some of them might respond back to you and say, go ahead, call my mama. She allowed me to cuss anyway.
They're going to cuss at you too.
Which is sad.
But you know what?
You still have
guess what we just... But you know what we just discovered? And I love that you brought this up, Teeny. I knew you had something on your mind. Anyway, you know what we just discovered in your whole conversation, Teeny?
What's that?
The real conversation that's missing with our children
And that is?
We're scared to talk to other people's children. That's the problem.
So that's what you got out of all that?
No, but listen.
No, but that's what it is. It took me a while to realize. I'm like, it's the truth. Our biggest problem is not what we're saying to our children, what we should tell our children. Our biggest problem in our culture is what we're not telling other people's children. And so we just actually came full circle. I believe that.
I support. Listen,
I'm not in that neighborhood.
In a real another example of this was the other day. I was walking in the neighborhood, and the kid, somehow these kids had a cup from 7-Eleven, and the one kid had it on the ground. He smushed it on the ground, and he seen me look. He see me look, and how I looked at him was saying, "You need to pick that cup." I didn't say it, but I looked, and then he went back. Everybody else kept going. He went back, picked it up, put it in the trash, and I said, "Now, don't you feel better?" And he shook his head, yeah. What Lightborn is saying is that we have become almost like everything is okay when it's not okay, But then I think what happens in some of that is some people can't say nothing to kids, and why some parents don't say nothing to kids because their kids see them do things that they can't. It'll cancel out. You can't. Would you tell me to not do something? And guess what? When we were driving the car, you threw all the stuff right out the window of the car, Mom. How you gonna tell me to pick something up on the street?
I hear you.
That Lightborn, that's an excellent point, because I did not feel comfortable talking to those kids. And the reason why I didn't feel comfortable is because I didn't know any of these kids. My daughter's going to sixth grade. Sixth grade is I think the first grade in middle school. I think you go through 6th through 8th or something like that, if it's still like that. And the reason why I said it's not my neighborhood, because when I grew up on the west side of the Chicago, and I went to elementary school, everybody knew each other. Everybody was Black. Everybody knew each other. And it was the time where if your neighbor caught you doing something, you could get spanked by your neighbor. Your neighbor would tell your parents, and then you would get spanked again when you got home for having to be spanked by your neighbor. So that's the era that I grew up in, and it was just a shock to me when I come to South Florida, and I'm seeing all these multi ethnic diversities, and I'm unfamiliar with how to conduct myself as an authority figure. So I'm not using that as an excuse. But I just didn't feel comfortable at the time. And you're right, Johnny. I probably should have spoke up without fear. But yeah, that's an excellent issue. Parents are not, or adult figures they don't speak to kids.
Well, it's even a bigger issue today, because unfortunately many of us have seen the various incidents when an adult does say something to a child, and then the parent comes to the scene, and that parent acts as their behavior tends to lend to, and you hear it, now I see why you act the way you do, and that unfortunately causes a lot of people to be reluctant to talk to other people's kids today, and unfortunately that's because you have children having children so early, and they don't know and have full understanding of what it means to be a parent. So unfortunately, like I said, many of them don't have any boundaries. They don't have any restrictions. There was a time when we all grew up when adults were talking, kids didn't come in and say anything. You didn't just come in and start talking. You might get popped in the mouth and sent outside crying, and you want to know why you got hit. Oh, because adults were talking and you just walked in here like you ain't see grown-ups having a conversation. Today, the grown-ups are now having these inappropriate conversation around children because as if the child isn't in the presence of them. You know, they're having a conversation like if the child isn't even there. So that's part of why many parents today or just adults are just reluctant to even say anything to other people's kids because you just don't know what it could turn into. Shoot, and you might end up getting shot or beat down.
Well, I mean, that's to the extreme, Johnny. But I tell you,
I know.
but see it like this, because I'm gonna flip the script for you on this, Johnny. Think about your child or the child that's embarrassed by their children. Matter of fact, embarrassed by their parent, rather, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Where they hold the teacher and other people in society to a higher standard than their own parent.
Got it.
Matter of fact, they see other adults as empowerment and they see their own parent as embarrassments, right? Gotcha. That can happen to any child. It doesn't matter what pedigree of parent, because that's naturally the nature of a child to be embarrassed by their parent, whether or not their parents embarrass them. You understand?
You're right. You're right.
Their nature. But what I say is this: the fact that the child still was able to distinguish that my mom may not, or my parent, because I'm not going to just drop it at the feet of moms, but my parent may not be professional enough. Notice I said professional enough, right?
Go ahead. Listen.
To have to come out here and interact with these people. You understand?
Okay.
And so the embarrassment says that the child is carrying around low self-esteem because guess what? You know what? My parents are ghetto. You understand? And the problem is we have to nip that in the bud because we have to bridge gaps, right? Because if you have a child who thinks that his parent ain't good enough, eventually that child is starting to think they're not good enough. And if they think their parent, nothing good will ever come from their parent, they will think that, you know what, naturally something never good will come from me. This is supposed to happen. I'm supposed to have nothing, and I'm supposed to be nothing. And so if we don't bridge that gap and bring that village back together, because you'll be surprised how parents who may be wild as hell show up and be great representatives of their children for the sake of their children.
I got you.
Yeah. And so I'm not saying my mom was no saint, because my mom was an entertainer. And so every time, a very classy entertainer, but she always showed up as an entertainer. She knew how to engage you. She knew how to entertain you. So no matter how serious the situation or problem was at the school, she always left that school with them administrators as her friend, right? Because that's her niche. That's her gift. That's what she do. For me, I didn't want to come to the school because I thought the woman that I lived with
was the one who was going to come to the school.
Correct. And I didn't know my mama know how to code switch, like most parents.
Gotcha.
Because parents don't code switch because for the sake of the principals and the teachers. Parents code switch because the representation of that child and say, you know what, I'm going to make sure when I leave here, you're more empowered than embarrassed. I would say most of the time, not all the time. And the ones that don't know how to do it most of the time, it's probably not more empathetic towards their children and still have a lot more growing to do. But it doesn't say that the people that's more responsible in that situation, you understand, don't have the ethical responsibility to still cover that child. Like they say, the strong must cover the infirmities of the weak. And we have to. And we have to always acknowledge that's what I love about being saved, because I have to bring myself back to it. I'm like, Lionel, you can't exact revenge or clap back at somebody because that's not your pedigree now. That's what you used to be, but that's not your pedigree now. And so now I got to still hold myself to the standard of saying, you know what, man, to whom much is given, much is required. You were given more in this situation, and you're required to give more in this situation.
There you go.
You don't get to act like them because you didn't come from where you're not where they at. When this situation is over, you're getting ready to go back to peace. They're getting ready to go back to problems, and you got to go ahead and manage that and balance that. And so it's a lot of growing and evolving as a adult, particularly as a good person, not even so much as a black man. But I remember I told you the greatest thing that we're gonna ever be and leave here and leave this world. It's not that we're being the greatest black man you are. It's being the greatest good man that you are.
Amen.
And
Amen.
that's gonna be my greatest goal. I had to shift that because I'm like, I said the community said I'm a great black man. You understand?
I hear
But
that.
God said, is there something greater? You want to aspire for something? You want to leave here being the greatest good man you can be. You're a good black man. You're a great black man, but you got to aspire for something greater. And I think that as fathers, we can start to instill that in our children. So it's the indictment is not so much, or the responsibility is not on our children. The problem is we're still involved as men and people, as human beings. And the greater you leave here, the greater you become, the greater your children will be. I believe that. If I don't believe
And I let that be, and I will let that be the greater that you are,
the greater your children
the greater
become.
your children will be. And so that lends you to move to the place to have these kind of conversations and talking to your children, no matter what the dynamic is. We talked about a lot of dynamics of conversations with our children. And I think that it really behooves us to remember it is us who has to do that. Our children can't tell us, they can't show us, they can't be a victim of us for us to realize we need to. We need to be being proactive at all times. That's one of the roles of being a parent.
Right.
Not just a father, but being a parent, being proactive for what my child has to face in the world every day, and we're going to go out and do that. So again, and I want to thank, man, this conversation has been dynamite. Not what, again, and people, you don't know, Fatherhood Think Tank is never what you think it's going to be. The topic may be there, but the conversation will go all the way around the world twice and come back to India. So you never know where we taking off from and where we landing at. But you will be sure you got a lot of information from fathers of multi-dynamics and places, stations, and classes. So you have a better understanding of how it fits for you and maybe how it fits for other people too. With that being said, I want to thank our sponsors, our good brother Jag, for being here tonight, as always, and Jag, attorney at law, for being a major sponsor of the Fatherhood Think Tank. All three of our partners, the Zeta Chi chapter of Omega Psi Phi in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, the Zeta Xi Nu chapter of Omega Psi Phi in Lagos, Nigeria, and the Omega Lambda chapter of Omega Psi Phi here in the beautiful city, 250 years, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, for being a partner of the Fatherhood Think Tank through their Fatherhood Initiative and mentoring program. So again, I thank everybody for joining us. And with that being said, Father, you repeat after me. I am.
I am.
I am.
I am.
I am a man of honor.
I am a man of honor.
I am.
I am.
I am.
I am.
I am a man of courage.
I am a man of courage.
I am.
I am.
I am.
I am.
I am a man of respect.
I am a man of respect.
Hey, fathers, I say that I am.
I am.
I say that, Father, that you are.
You are.
Fathers, I say that we are.
We are.
Championship
Championship,
As you can always see, we leave our arms up, holding our kids on our shoulders, on our arms, and our families on our back, and the community as well. Thank you for joining us tonight. We definitely will see you here next Tuesday, 7 o'clock, for another episode of the Fatherhood Think Tank. We want to thank you for joining us, being here. It has been great. Hopefully you got something. If you didn't get anything, I tell you, like I tell my clients, what's the one thing you're taking away? I hope you're taking away when you should start talking to your children about their body. Not so much about sex, but talking to them about their body, because that's important. With that being said, thank you for joining us, and we'll see y'all here again next week at the Fatherhood Think Tank.
All right, fellas, y'all have a
Y'all
good
have
night.
a blessed
man.
weekend, fellas.
Have a good one, everybody.
All
All
right.
right, thank you. Huh?